after finishing the film, I've been running around the world and showing the film and participating in film festivals. So I couldn't make any film at that time, so I put my time in writing. So I started writing a couple of scripts with different writers as partners, and this year we decided we will choose one, and we're hoping that we will shoot next year. So I'm working on another comedy, but this one is a little bit more, has our Armenian history in it. And it's, I don't want to spoil you, I don't want to tell you much about it, but it's going to be a half English, half Armenian movie where an American guy who's in vacation in Turkey accidentally passes the border and comes to Armenia. And he still thinks that he's still in Turkey. He starts to talk Turkish to other Armenians, and the Armenians think he's a Turkish spy. So it has a little bit of history that happened this past 20 years with the war with Azerbaijan, not understanding the language. So it has that dramatic comedy in it. So that's what I'm working right now.
Great. Anything like tonight's so I'm just going to start a general discussion, and then I'm just going to open it up to the audience and just let you guys ask questions, because I think that's probably more exciting. But my question is a general way, and you guys can interpret it in any way you see fit or you feel like talking about. But as you can see, we have a real diverse set of filmmakers here, from the documentary to the dramatic and the comedy. But my general question is, maybe I think it's a pertinent one today, but how does being an Armenian inform your filmmaking today? When you go to make decisions about what subject matter to choose or what to do, does that have any sort of influence on your choices? Obviously, some of you make themes that are Armenian themes, and some of you choose themes that are non-Armenian, and how does that sort of fit into your daily lives as filmmakers? So, anybody jump in? You feel like, well, obviously, Carla, maybe we can start with yours, because yours was like, completely about the genocide and bringing that to younger people. So, that kind of a conscious decision, is that something you take every time, or is it something that concerns you?
Well, before Screamers, I wasn't making films about Armenian subjects, although I've worked with Michael Hagopian, who has made several genocide documentaries. I think that, interestingly, I believed that I was operating as an American and as a European, because I lived on both continents. So I didn't really feel that I was Armenian. But I think now, with hindsight, looking back at the work I've done, that there was definitely a motivation that came from being Armenian, and that is being a journalist, wanting to give voice to people who have suffered from injustices and people whose stories have not been told. And especially denial. And so I've worked on a film about Afghanistan and North Korea, a war crime in Chechnya. Over the years, I guess I always was drawn to people's stories that were not being told. And I think, being an Armenian, it was pointed out to me by another journalist who said, well, you know why you're doing this. You're doing it because you're an Armenian. And it really surprised me, having somebody say that to me. So looking back at it, I think that there's a fundamental motivation. And also, when I was around 12 or 13, we had Michael Hagopian made the first mainstream Armenian documentary for American television. It was called The Forgotten Genocide. Some of you might remember that. And at the time, it was first shown on PBS in Los Angeles. And at the time that it was going to be shown, my father, who was on the committee that was planning the commemorative activities in that year, received a phone call. And it was from somebody who was representing the U.S. State Department, and they made it very clear that they were unhappy that this film was being shown and that it would be damaging, they said, to U.S. national security interests. So that was the first time that I, as a young person, became aware of the conflict between being an Armenian and being an American. To have that happen and to hear that and to be really confused. But it actually woke me up a little bit, and it made me realize that there are often these conflicting agendas, and what was I going to do about it? Of course, at 12, I couldn't do anything. But I guess Screamers in some ways was long in gestation, because Screamers was the answer to that experience.
And do you think your next subjects are going to be based around Armenian themes?
I think if they're not based around Armenian themes, then they're based around Armenian dilemmas, but maybe more at a human rights level that we all experience. It's just that these global issues and problems that we're trying to address now, I'm addressing as an Armenian, as an American, as a citizen of the world, as a woman, whatever, how many different hats we wear. And you know that right in place yourself, that you wear these different hats. And which one you wear at any time is determined by the issue you're addressing in some ways.
Parag, what about you? Your first film, The Life and Times of Charles Gary, or Charles Garabedian, who was an Armenian attorney. That was your first film.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you, being an Armenian, making an Armenian film? Do you feel you've got support from the community, and is this some direction you'll continue in?
Well, I mean, my second film is about America, essentially, and about the planet. But I think that I got into the film because I was studying two things in college, and it was a story that I often repeat. As a history major, so I was studying Ottoman Armenian history, studying the history of the 60s. And really, if you guys are familiar with Charles Gary's story, that's really when these two worlds collide. Here was this guy who essentially escaped massacres to come to the U.S. Not him, his family. And he was born here, and he grew up in Fresno, California, and he was discriminated against. And so I was fascinated by a story, and I wanted to share a story because I thought it was inspirational. And so, I mean, like I said, it was an accident. I wanted to do the same things that he was doing. I wanted to practice civil rights and human rights law. And so that was very much informed by me as an Armenian, and my past, because I wasn't necessarily interested in, prosecuting dead Turks, but I wanted to prosecute, people who were violating human rights now, war criminals, etc. And instead, I ended up making films about similar topics. And I think that it's more empowering. I think that what filmmakers do is a lot more inspiring in some ways because, instead of righting a wrong in a courtroom, what you're essentially doing is hopefully preventing the wrong thing from ever happening. And so that's what inspires my filmmaking.
That's really great. Michael, what about you? I know you have some thoughts on this subject.
Well, I guess for me, I didn't grow up in an Armenian community. I was brought up as a guy from Oakland. So I identify more with Oakland than being Armenian growing up. And I think being exposed to the community through things like Ada, it's tough being an artist, and it's tough being a filmmaker.
Yeah.
To even be able to do that is quite a challenge. So to me, I think as much as making films that are about Armenian issues, I think the other side to it is things like Ada being geared